Shadowless flame.
Yes, don't blink!
Recalibrating. This bullet will reach its mark.
Victory, the only option.
It's over.
Look at me!
The cold is silent. Increased firepower.
My blade is already
Sniper's Creed. One shot, one kill.
I can also become an Asura! Purging Slash! My blade is already
Press the advantage.
Restore order!
Good morning everyone, we are back at exploring Trigger's team. Previously, we tested how Trigger fared with Yanagi. Now, we are moving to Miyabi. And it will be unavoidable to talk about the comparison between Trigger versus Lycaon in this team. Is she better than Lycaon? Well, not necessarily. But let's elaborate on that. Both of them are debuffer stunner. Lycaon gives 25% ice damage rest threat and 35% stun mold, while Trigger gives 25% death threat only if she has her signature and 3% stun mold inside and outside of stun. Trigger's stun mold debuff is undeniably better than Lycaon because it also applies outside of stun. But their secondary debuff is kind of hard to compare because you can't really weight damage rest threat versus death threat just by the two of them. The comparisons should also count all the other stats, buff, and debuffs that exist in the combat, but generally they are pretty much not far from each other. On the perspective of their debuff, M0 Lycaon is still better than M0W0 Trigger. Against M0W1 Trigger, I would say they are not far from each other, but it's still skewed a bit to Lycaon. But if you have M1 Trigger, or if your Miyabi is M1 or higher, Trigger becomes far better than Lycaon in this team. While Lycaon Mindscape doesn't really scale Miyabi's damage at all. But don't get me wrong here, Miyabi Soukaku Lycaon is the best team on the game currently, if we are talking about damage over cost. Then, let's talk about their Anomaly buildup. This is the general rotation of this team. Miyabi would want a teammate to trigger Disorder with, and Soukaku currently is the only agent that can proc Freeze Anomaly with Miyabi consistently, synergizing together to make a Freeze and Frost stun lock. But Soukaku is inherently has a medium Anomaly buildup with an asterisk. She actually has a really high Anomaly buildup if you build her with Freedom Blues 4-piece and AMD 6, but she is really dependent on her energy to build Anomaly. That's why her dash attack cancel is really important because it generates considerable energy and build up Anomaly. Lycaon in this team generally will help Soukaku to build Ice Anomaly damage. That's why my most comfortable build of Lycaon right now is 2-piece Phaeton and ERD6 with Oven. Trigger being an electric agent forces us to change the rotation from 2 attribute disorders to semi-3 attribute disorders. But note that naturally, Trigger has a really low Anomaly buildup. Even if we boost her Anomaly up with AMD 6 and 2-piece Phaeton, she can only proc at most 3 shock in the fight. But if we place them well, we can use it strategically. We'll see it demonstrated on the rotation breakdown. The part where Trigger falls out compared to Lycaon is her dazing capability. Triggered additional ability is not active in this team. That means her Aftershock Daze is not buffed at all. Trigger will still be able to get 3 stun rotation even with her AM build, but compared to ER build Lycaon, her daze is way slower. We should also account that Lycaon has an attribute advantage in dazing Bringer because he is ice weak. Currently, this is not that big of a problem, but I think this is worth mentioning. What I do with this team is basically translating the rotation of Miyabi Soukaku Lycaon to Trigger rotation. The outline of the fight is still the same, alternating attribute disorder for constant Miyabi hold basic with total of 12 Miyabi's hold basic in the whole fight with Bringer, 5 before hand 1, 4 after hand 1, and 3 after hand 2. To get a kill on 100 million HP Bringer currently, ideally it's best to get 4 hold basic inside 1 or 2 stun. This is possible if you have a good timing at stun locking Bringer on freeze without shattering it too early, and good energy management for Miyabi to frost for the last hold basic. And there's also condition that we must fulfill to get the rotation as smooth as possible as follows. We'll talk about it more in the rotation breakdown. Because the absence of Lycaon, this team really needs electric and ice anomaly build-up buff to make sure Soukaku can freeze alone and Trigger can proc shock on time. In addition to that, buff with Depth Threat is good because of Depth Threat stacking with Trigger's W engine. But that's pretty much it for the rotation crafting. So, let's review the build. Trigger is on AM build like explained before with 4-piece Astral. I will say that King of the Summit is worse than Astral Voice for Miyabi in this team. She doesn't really need more crit damage. The rest, it's probably best to build Trigger on crit over AP build. Do note that there are only 3 instances of shock in the whole fight, while her crit damage is constant throughout the fight. Soukaku is on Pseudo Anomaly build with 4-piece Freedom Blues and AMD 6. Make sure she has 2500 initial attack, so you might need attack this 5 and or this 4. But if you can get 2500 attack with a this 4 attack, you can change it to AP or crit instead. But I use AP build here because the sword damage is buffed in this current D8. Because Trigger gives Depth Threat, the pen ratio is not an option for Miyabi, so her this 5 is best to be attacked with 2-piece Hormone or Astral, and her this 4 can be attacked or crit rate. In addition, because disorder damage is buffed a lot in the current DA buff, my Miyabi here has more than average AP stat. Miyabi this 4 is really depend on your available disc and Soukaku's W engine. Soukaku needs a support W engine with ER substats for her ER needs, so the option would be Kaboom or Game Ball on Soukaku. Both isn't necessarily far better than the other. In my opinion, it's more of a matter of stat balancing. If you have a really good crit this 4 on Miyabi, then Kaboom will be best on Soukaku. But if you have a better attack this 4 on Miyabi, then Game Ball becomes better. Though Game Ball makes it really easy to build Miyabi if you don't have a lot of crit rate rolls on your disc. And Game Ball also buff Trigger's crit rate for her damage. I should also mention, if you have Astra signature, it's a bit better than Kaboom and Game Ball. Now let's break down the run. Our first objective is to charge Trigger Purge. The opening where Bringer slam his hand is the only opening that gives enough time for it. If Bringer doing the other opening where he twirl and uses his whip, I just reset. Then quick assist to Miyabi and defensive assist again to Trigger. Then to Soukaku, hold special to go back to Miyabi, basic attacking again for energy and anomaly buildup, To make sure Bringer is stunned on time for the first stun, we have to use all of our assist points for defensive assist. After this, we wait for one more defensive assist on trigger. Be careful here as Bringer could do a whip attack with a really small response window. It's best to prepare for it. After the last assist point has been spent, trigger EX to Soukaku EX once, dash attack, and then go back to Miyabi, trigger Frost. EX to get full Found Frost. Now we are on the first hold basic. Basic a bit for Miyabi's energy, and then to hold basic. During that, position Soukaku to use her EX. This positioning is important. If you have been trying to freeze Bringer with Soukaku, you might find inconsistency in her build-up. I think this is due to how Soukaku EX interact with Bringer hitbox. To make sure Soukaku EX build-up is enough, her positioning against Bringer has to be as follows. You have to feel it for yourself on how far the distance should be. It looks like that as long as Soukaku is in line with Bringer big hand at some distance, then her build-up will be good. Now here, Soukaku need to do 2 EX to get her buff up from Miyabi. Her first EX have to freeze Bringer, and her second EX has to build a quarter of the ice anomaly. Back to Miyabi, freeze with EX, basic a bit more. The basic attack count here is calculated. We need to do this to get just enough energy for Miyabi later. This is a great start for the stun. Now we are going to do 4 hold basic inside the first stun. Before Bringer is stunned, Miyabi charge her hold basic, then as soon after that, go to Soukaku basic attack to stun Bringer and get some energy to get enough for her EX. EX only once to freeze, because if she needs to do EX twice here, she might not have enough energy for the next combo. This is why the ice build-up from previous EX and from Penguin Boo is really important here. Without Lycaon, Soukaku ice build-up has to be really precise. The aftershock from Tiger might shatter Bringer here, but it's rarely happen for me. While Bringer is still frozen, to Miyabi ultimate, Miyabi hold basic, to Soukaku EX1. Now looks like ice anomaly build-up is still far to go, but that's okay, because the next disorder will be proc by trigger shock. This is why AM build trigger feels the best to work here in my testing. Because she builds her anomaly while off field, she can be strategically get back on field to proc shock when it is full. But to get her electric anomaly fast enough for the rotation, AM build becomes really necessary. Miyabi chain, EX, Frost, the third hold basic, position Soukaku here, don't be too rush. As soon as Miyabi hold basic is done, Soukaku EX to freeze Bringer. You have to wait for Miyabi storm to be done, or the freeze will be instantly shattered. Then to Miyabi again, EX, hold basic level 1, and EX again for the 4th hold basic, just in time. This is the part where Miyabi energy management is really important for 4 hold basic stun rotation. Because without double EX at the last stun, the anomaly buildup will not be fast enough to frost the stun Bringer. Though here, it's more like a 3.5 hold basic rotation. Looks like we can't really get a full 4 hold basic here. And now, let's check the rotation outline. We are now here. We already did 5 hold basic overall. We will not have time to do another one. Better to set up for the next stun. We need to get as close to 70 days, as close to max frost and ice anomaly meter, and 2 Soukaku Vortex. First, Soukaku dash attack cancelled after her ultimate for a chance to get Vortex, then to Miyabi, basic a bit. Before Bringer start chanting, we charge trigger Purge, ultimate, and EX. All this is important for days and also for electric anomaly for the next stun. If Bringer go to the hand phase too fast, trigger might miss her EX. This will be bad for the planned shock proc later. Now to Miyabi again, building as much frost anomaly. To Soukaku EX one more time to max out the ice anomaly and getting another Vortex. Now to hand phase. Heal the hand ASAP with disorder, use Soukaku EX first to keep Miyabi astral stack at full. And you can see here why Soukaku need to prepare 2 Vortex before the first hand. So then, the buff on Miyabi will be refreshed at the next stun. If Soukaku doesn't have her Vortex ready here, Miyabi might be unbuffed for a bit at the start of the next stun. Now to getting the next stun, this is where AM build triggers seems a bit awkward. She sometimes can't get Bringer instantly stunned after the hand like Lycaon can. Now we are on the second stun window. Here, I'm only planning to do 3 hold basic inside stun, because Miyabi energy is lacking. So there will be no need to timing Soukaku EX for freeze. This is better to make sure we will have enough time for the second hand, because longer stun window will means the second hand phase will be more late. Miyabi charge her hold basic right after stun, to Soukaku EX to freeze Bringer, This is why it's important to build Ice Anomaly to max before the hand phase, so the next stun rotation will be swift. And the following rotation will be like the usual Miyabi stun rotation, and Trigger will proc her shock for the last Frost Disorder inside stun, while charging her perch. Quick assist back to Miyabi. You can see it will be possible to do another 4 hold basic stun rotation here as we still have some stun time. But Miyabi energy is not enough, but that's okay. We still need to do one more Miyabi hold basic before the second hand. Now we are preparing for the next stun window. Same as before, as close to 70 days, and almost max Frost and Ice Anomaly meter. Don't worry about Soukaku Vortex, because we will use her ultimate along with when Bringer start laughing. This will make sure the buff is up for Miyabi next, and save time so we have enough time for the last stun window. Kill the hand swiftly. Now we are at the last stun window. We will need 3 Miyabi hold basic, stun Bringer and do the first hold basic, Soukaku freeze Bringer and quick assist back to Miyabi ASAP to her ult. Notice that the electric anomaly is still less than 75%. We need it to be full for the last disorder. So next, Soukaku will freeze Bringer, and then we chain to Trigger for electric anomaly, and then to Miyabi, Frost for the 12 hold basic. Notice here Trigger maxed out electric anomaly with her Tartarus aftershock during Miyabi EX. Then, as Trigger said, one shot, one kill. I spent too much time of planning the rotation to get Trigger to be the one delivering the final blow. And that's the breakdown. Once again, I will have to say, I'm not necessarily saying Trigger will replace Lycaon in this team. It's variation. If you don't know where to put Trigger in, or if Lycaon is occupied with his boyfriend, having option for team building is always good. Both teams are great, and I kind of can't really say one is easier than the other. Well, I hope this video helps you, and see you next time.